Welcome to Tools for Success Counseling, where we provide the right tools for your mental wellness. This is our first episode, and it's so special because we have the owner of
Woo,
Tools
woo,
for Success
woo.
Counseling, Tamera Crenshaw.
Yes,
licensed,
I love it. I love it.
licensed professional counselor, and of course, like I said, the owner. Hey, Tamera, how you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful, wonderful. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm happy to have you here today. It's something that we have been trying to do for so long for tools, to get tools out there, to show people that we have not only counselors, but counselors of color in this area,
Yes,
looking to
yes.
help the community, black, white, brown, LGBTQIA, all of it. And we are just trying to basically just get it out there that we're here and that we're here to help the community. So we have you here today because we just want to know more about you. We want to know more
Yes.
about your tools, and we want to know more about what you're doing in the community, more of you as a therapist, as an owner, and all that good stuff. So, are you ready? Because I'm coming with the questions, and I'm coming hot.
I'm ready for all that. I want all the smoke, all the
Okay,
smoke.
perfect, perfect. So, Tam, can you first just tell us about you? Who are you?
The hard stuff, huh? So I will say I'll lead with first and foremost, I am a child of God. And I say that because although spirituality and religion may not have a direct place always in therapy, it definitely who I am, I bring that into the session. So I would say first, I'm a child of God. And second, I'm a mother of a fabulous 8-year-old who is active and busy and living her best life. In addition to running and owning Tools for Success Counseling, I teach as an adjunct professor at Westfield State University.
Uh-oh.
I'm in the illustrious sorority Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated.
Ooh,
Um, and that's really who I am. And I'm a sister, a daughter, a friend, all of the above.
sweet, sweet, sweet. And a fabulous, excellent, superb boss. You know, superb, superb. On to the
Lay
next
it on, lay it on.
So, Tam, why did you first become a therapist? What's your story of becoming a therapist?
Yes. So I'm going to date myself because honestly, it was watching Growing Pains. And for those of us who remember the show Growing Pains, there was a father on there, and he was a psychologist. And I just remember watching that show and seeing him have people come in and sit on his couch and talk to him. And so that was probably my first picture of what a psychologist therapist really was. And then fast forward, I took a high school course. It was Intro to Psych. Miss Warren was an amazing teacher. I went to a PWI, a predominantly white institute, and she really fostered and really threw that seed of, hey, you talk, people love you. It transcends beyond your race, because I was probably one of 4 or 5 black women in my class, and
Hmm.
she really kind of fostered that. And then I studied it in undergrad at UMass Amherst. I studied it for my master's in at UMass Dartmouth. And so I would just say it's always really been a part of who I am, what I wanted to do. Your classic story, I was that friend that everyone would come and talk to and share all their problems with. And so, yeah, I would say that's how I really, the ideal of being a therapist or psychology came into my life.
Okay, so what area of mental health are you in? What is your, some people say, oh, what's your ideal client? But who do you like to work with? Who do you work with now? And what does that look like?
Yes. So going back to that, Christian piece, I really take the mindset of there's a client and demographic that I like to work with, but then there's also those that come to me and that the universe, God, your creator, whoever you want to call them, who sends to me. And so I would say often at times who comes to me are teens, which I don't necessarily always love. Young teen girls, I would even say, teen boys really tend to gravitate towards me. Anytime I'm at, an open house or an event, they'll come right up to my table, just start talking and kind of want to suck that knowledge. So that's who gravitates towards me. Who I love and who I say that would be my niche or my specialty would be women just like me, anywhere between 28 and 48 and up, professional, working, um, dibbled and dabbled with the ideal of therapy, but not yet fully have bought into it.
Okay.
And then uncovering, trauma. So what I find is a lot of the women that I really like working with are women that, there's this thing with black women, and this is just my experience, where we talk self-care, we preach self-care, and then we don't incorporate therapy into self-care. And so I really like that population. I like showing them, hey, it's okay to be vulnerable. Hey, we're talking about soft era, but what does that really look like? Hey, it's okay to say, yes, we just have to push through, but that doesn't mean you can't process and have someone you trust to work things out with. So that's my passion, is probably the demographic that look and feel a lot like me. But like I said, what tends to gravitate towards me are those teens just try to creep right in there.
Okay, so I feel like you gave a little golden nugget, but can we get some more? So, women specifically, you say you talk about soft era.
Yes.
What is it really? So, just give a little piece of what you would tell somebody in a session. Okay, you saying soft girl era, but you not doing what? Like what is all encompassing in that?
Yes, no, absolutely. So I think we're on this thing now with black women where we're tired of being strong. You hear all these slogans of check on your strong friend, or black women, we need a soft landing too. And so I'll meet, or a lot of women come in and they really don't know how to do that. So like I said, we'll do, kind of superficial, external self care. We'll get our nails done. We'll get our hair done. We'll go to the spa. We'll go out for drinks with friends. But when it comes to that inner work, and so what I really challenge and encourage my clients to do is, to journal. Something as simple as journaling. Okay, if you don't like to journal, because I get that a lot, I don't like to journal. Okay, well, read your Bible app, or read your verses. If you're not heavy on, the spiritual aspect, okay, well, then let's break down, patterns of life, and how we've coped. And so one of the tools that I utilize right on first session, I utilize a geneogram. And for those of us that did our masters, we know that a geneogram is really a simplified family tree. And so, what
Mhm.
I like to do with my clients is, although, some people are like, I want to be in the present, I don't want to explore childhood trauma, I don't want to go to my, past. It is important to look at patterns and ways that we've coped, or ways we've been forced to cope. So, I use this geneogram, and we break down really generations, and we look at some of the generational trauma. We look at some of the cultural patterns within our own family and how they shaped us to become us. Because even though we're not always of our environment, it doesn't mean that our environment doesn't impact us. So that's one tool that I ask people, and I find even for myself, it's helpful just to really know where you come from. What does divorce look like in your family? How many kids did each generation have? What were the work environments that we chose?
Yeah.
How did we deal with stress? So did we, consume alcohol or other substances? Were we avid runners? That was kind of our way. So really breaking down what was around us and what shaped how we in turn then interact in our lives.
Whew.
You're
You've been
so
around. You've been around. You've been around. I love that. I love that. And it seems like even if you're trying to have a soft era, you still have some hard work to do, because it still seems like it's a lot of digging, because you're trying to get to the root of what's really going on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have women tell me all the time, they'll say, I'm really working on myself, and I'm really setting boundaries, right? They know these buzz terms, but what that really looks like, a lot of women, and dare I say women of color, because we've been forced this, is that we mistake solace and solitude, right? So we mistake Xing people out and setting boundaries as just not having anyone around us. And while avoidance and isolation, right, can be ways to cope, they're not healthy coping skills. So isolation is never a healthy thing. What we do want, though, is to look around and see who we have around us, and maybe that means eliminating the people that don't help our health and adding more people that do. And so yeah, I think that's something that a lot of times when we feel like we're working on ourselves, it doesn't mean we're progressing or we're healing. It just means we kind of pause. So I've been helping a lot of women, specifically women of color, learn the difference between, really healing and growing versus just taking a pause and a time out from stressors.
Okay, Tim, you are really phenomenal. Just with I feel a comfort. I know you're talking about women. I feel a comfort in myself as a black man, like with all of that, especially when you're talking about just not cutting everybody off. But okay, the do sit down because you need
Yes.
some type of community to have your back. You can't do it all on your own.
Right, because that's avoidance, right? In certain
Yeah.
degrees, that's isolation, and those aren't necessarily what we want. And I love my male clients. I talk about my women, but I value, sometimes I feel like I'm a little biased, and I value my male clients a little bit more. So, definitely women, unfortunately, in my practice, what I see is okay, so tools for success counseling, I would say to give a little bit of demographics, I would say we're about 74% people of color. Within that 74% people of color, 95% are women of color. So men are not coming to therapy, at least not to tools, at the rates that their counterparts are coming. But what
Okay.
that does is now I'm working with, the said woman, and she's going home to said partner who hasn't done the same amount of work, and helping her navigate doing the work herself and then going to a partner who isn't. So I definitely value my male clients when they do come and they show up and they work. It's such a blessing to have them.
So this is definitely a call out to all the men who are watching right now. We have openings, we have spots. Please, please, please give us a call. Deirdre will take you on in and give you everything that you need to get connected with the right counselor.
Absolutely.
So that demographic of Tools for Success. Why did you open Tools for Success Counseling?
Yes. So for a couple of reasons, and it's interesting to me because it wasn't something I ever thought I would do or even had it on my radar. Now, even looking back, I had different people dropping the seed, and I just never bit. And I would say because schools don't teach us the business of psychology. So
They do
schools
not.
really, right, they prep us for agency work. They prep us to work for someone else. And so throughout my graduate career, I just always thought I'm going to work for someone else, whether that be state, whether that be government, right? Because it doesn't mean we can excel and have plenty of options, but just always thought I would work for someone else. And it wasn't until I had a friend that was really like, hey, what got me is the creativity. So in my experience working for other people and having supervisors, which is important and there's value, and I understand why we have to earn a certain amount of hours under someone's supervision, right? We can't just be out here willy nilly doing our own thing. So I value it, but I hit a point where I really wanted to service people like me. I wanted to service my nephew, my brothers, my father, my mother, my grandmother. And the treatment that we give looks different culturally. It's not to say that someone can't help someone from a different culture, it just looks and feels different. So I wanted to open my practice with the goal of focusing on mental health within the Black and brown community. We know there's so many disparities within health, period. And then if you account for mental health, there's
Yeah.
even greater disparity. So I wanted tools to be a place where I could service someone like me and you, and I could use the skills to really cater towards them, and not something that was designed based off of research for people who didn't look like you or I.
Okay. Wow. Wow. So how does it feel that it's actually happening? Like well first, what was that first year like to compare it to now?
Yes.
What year are we on of Tools?
Yeah, so Tools for Success started in 2014. It was
Mm,
just me, wanting to provide service to people that look like me. And, as life, universe, God, my creator would have it, is that everything was validated. I got clients right away. My clients look like me, never had been in therapy before. And that was such a rush to me. To get someone who's never been in therapy before and have them have their first experience with me, it's a blessing that still gives me the chills. Someone's literally trusting in you, their
yes.
mental health, and I don't take that lightly. I take it very serious. And there's so many obstacles within that, right? Culturally, the first one, confidentiality. It's a double-edged sword. Working in the community, my father was a teacher for 34 years. I've had people that have said, 20 sessions in, your father was my teacher, or I know your brother, I know your sister. And so confidentiality to me early on became something that I know our folks need and want. And I hold that to every high regard. When I see someone out, I tell them during sessions, I will never approach you first. I'm not going to ignore you, but I'll wait and I'll follow your lead. Some people don't mind. They're running up to me, my therapist, my therapist. Other people are more reserved. I've had people who kind of look away or don't want to acknowledge. So for me, confidentiality was big. But that first, going back to what you asked me about the differences, I was by myself. So it was just, it was fun and I liked it and I was getting the clients I wanted, but it could be really lonely. I missed that, having people to bounce things off with clinically. I kind of had to seek some of that on my own. So the first year I would say was full and it was exciting and it was really me getting my feet wet with, hey, I get to give the treatment to people that I want to give. But also I would say that now, having this group and having now, between 10 and 12 clinicians with me is just definitely a different feeling. And having clinicians that look like me, that's been something that I've been very excited about.
Yeah, yeah. And Tam, for the small amount of time I've been here at Tools, I can tell you the just the energy that when you first come into Tools, just with meeting you, you already feel like you're in a place that you're going to be covered, like as a therapist. Because there's so many places like where you can go to be a therapist, and it's like a therapy mill where they're just trying to
Yes.
get you in every
Yes.
client in and out. But literally, you come into Tools and you're like, what do you want? What do you desire? Who do you want to work with? And how can I support you in that? So you not only pour that into us as the therapists who work for you, but clearly you pour that into the people that you work with as their therapist. So I say thank you for that and for that energy and for that love that you get. Black women always do it across the board. I know y'all ain't doing nothing else this year. I know y'all not doing nothing else this year. I heard, but
That's right.
and I'm very much appreciative, just of that, of what y'all still give and what you give, because it really does make a huge difference in showing up every single day. So
Yeah,
thank you.
no, no, no. I appreciate that. I appreciate that so much. And I'm happy that that's what you receive because healing work is hard work. And I know
Yeah.
what it's like as a therapist to have your own stuff going on. And that's what I teach, right? On the graduate level, it's like we are our tool. And that tool, if it's not in the right space or if it's not feeling supported or you're just feeling like you're a number, it's never going to transcend to our clients the way in which we want. So I'm happy that you feel that way. And therapists that come under me, I want them to feel that way. I'm big on therapists going on to have their own practices. I know when
Mm,
I first started to build a group and I would say that, people would kind of look at me side-eyed like, well, what do you mean you're okay with that person going on to get their own practice? There's so much healing out here, Brian. To be greedy and to want people to only thrive under me is just, I feel a bigger purpose in calling. So I really like when clinicians do feel that support because there's work for us to do. There's a lot of work out here.
yeah. Okay, good. Okay, so next question. So what's your approach to therapy and how do you tailor it to each client's unique needs?
Yes, yes. So I would say my approach is CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy. And that's simply because that's the time in which I came into school, right? So when I came in early 2000, it was 2006 when I entered graduate school, everything empirical, which means evidence based research, had been provided for CBT. So that means it had been tried with war vets, it had been tried with some of the most severe acute clients that we would see. And so CBT was really pushed. So I was naturally going to have a CBT background. And what that looks like is it really is connecting. It's like this triangle, and you want to connect your thoughts with your feelings, with your behaviors. And if you can connect those, then it can predict how we're going to act or respond to situations. So I'm really big on cognitive behavioral. However, since working with my community and within the community, I've learned to adapt. And so that can look like motivational interviewing, which is exactly what it says. I'm motivating. That's used in a lot of substance users. That's used in a lot of clients that have difficulty really reaching a change. And that therapeutic, that rapport between you and your client can be a heavy factor. So I really do a lot of motivational interviewing, but then I also pull from other various things as well too. There's a new, kind of not new, but newer to Black clinicians anyway, treatment, which is EMDR. And that
Yes.
stands for eye movement desensitization reprocessing. And so you're pretty much, again, your tool. So you have this bilateral tool. It's just simply your hand, and they follow with your eyes back and forth. And again, that's another technique that you do have to have additional certification in. So you have to complete a certain amount of hours of practicum, but it's been studied with, again, PTSD, our vets who are some of the most severely impacted regarding their mental health. It's been tried with all types of different illnesses. So I really do pull from a lot. And of course, I would say the biggest thing, and this may sound corny or cliche, but is taking care of myself. Right? I'm human, I'm not perfect. And so I say that to say a technique I use is to be a model, basic role modeling, basic role playing, but you can't do that if you're not pulling from healthy resources yourself. And I do share that with my clients. Some people would, kind of look at that and frown their nose, but I let them know, like, some days I might not be okay and I can't have this session. So I do need to reschedule. And I'm not necessarily dumping my issues onto them, but role playing is big to me. Role playing and modeling is something that I feel like a lot of therapists don't realize the gravity of what that can do for your clients. So if I'm struggling with my eating and my weight loss program, I'm
Mhm.
sharing with them, hey, it's not to judge, it's just to say, I know I'm not always doing well. Let's check in on you. So those
Yeah.
are kind of I would say CBT. Then I add in a sprinkle of some other techniques that I like to pull upon. But honestly, the biggest thing is I feel like you are your greatest tool. So just being healthy and practicing some of your own, healthy coping mechanisms is important as well too.
Okay, I think that that's beautiful that you model that for the clients themselves. I ain't there yet. In the you ain't gonna know too much about me, but I get a little something. You ain't gonna know too much, but I think that's beautiful, especially because you brought up the weight aspect. I
Mm-hmm.
last 2 years dropped a whole bunch of weight, but it sure
Yeah.
is like a roller coaster of that. So where are you pulling from? How are you saying it to make it connect that it's like, hey, I'm on this weight loss journey too, but it's not, I'm not there today. Like, how does that come into play to make them
Yeah.
feel about weight? Because, weight in our community, Thanksgiving just came by. People going, oh, Shirley, you put on some, yeah, it's always been a thing. It's sensitive about weight. So how do you,
No, and I'm glad you said that, Brian, because we laugh and we joke, but it is like the first, I would say, beginning of my private practice career where I'm out on my own and I get to pick the treatment. I never addressed weight. Culturally, it's taboo. You don't ask someone their age, and you definitely don't ask them their dress size, right? That's just kind of how we grew up. So it took me a while, and it wasn't until I started to see the impact. Like, okay, if I eat this, I feel slower, I feel sluggish. If I don't move, I feel this. And then just all the data that we have now, and then all the numbers that were coming up, and then hearing about heart health and breast cancer and how much they impact us specifically. And so I remember never even addressing it. And then one day a light bulb just went off in a comfort. And now we talk about it. What's your weight? What's your size? What are your goals? And
ooh,
I do have a lot of women, Black women specifically, that come in, and obesity is an issue, and they don't, it's hard, it's difficult. I learned a lot about eating disorders within the Black community that I had never, had the privilege of. Me as a therapist, I was your typical, poster for anorexia, skinny white woman, blonde hair, blue eyes, right? And then when you see Black women coming in and they're reporting, I binge eat, I'm regurgitating my food, it's hard to not address it and not realize, okay, whoa, this isn't just one size fits all. We are having a difficult time with our eating habits as well too. So yeah, no, weight is definitely something that I talk with all my clients now. And then of course you get those that don't eat and they restrict, and that's not a
huh?
healthy thing either. But no, it can be difficult, but I put it under the same category as sexual intimacy, right? Sexual orientation, sexual intimacy, and eating, they're hard topics to have, but they're imperative to our health. So I've just learned that you have to address the elephant in the room.
So when they're so when they're coming in, because weight again is sensitive. What is it like, girl? I see. You speaking a little like how is that, or is it just like that what's it, that rapport is just so good? It's like, hey, I can keep it real with you,
So
like.
let me share with you this. I would say, because this is funny, but it was changing for me in therapy. I had a client come in, young white student, amazing rapport, one of my favorite students. I learned so much from her just as much as she learned from me. Severe anxiety, even borderline OCD, obsession compulsive disorder, but severe anxiety, panic attacks daily. We did a lot of work. I'm mentioning her because she had said to me, and she looked me dead in the eyes and said, I just, she was talking about a friend or someone, and she was like, because she's just really fat, she's just really overweight, and she doesn't take care of herself, and she's a size 10. And internally, I'm a size 12. So as she's telling me this information and telling me how disgusted she is, it was a check for me to
Hmm.
say, okay, you have clients and you want them to feel comfortable. And I didn't want to take away, it'd be easy as a human to shift that treatment and shame her, or easily say to her, oh, well, that's not big, or are you kidding me? And that's not our job as a therapist. That's never what we want to do. So that was my wake up call of like, okay, what size am I? And even though I may not be in an agreement what her ideal of her body image should be, it definitely was kind of had me look at, okay, what's healthy? Forget
Yeah.
the number, but what's a healthy weight? What do your healthy numbers look like? And so that's what I started doing. I started encouraging women to look at their numbers overall. So your A1C, your
Mhm.
cholesterol, look at those numbers. And that's what started me having the conversation. So it made it a little bit easier to say, okay, we're not going to necessarily talk about the weight, the number, but what does that look like for you with health? If you're not moving, if you can't bend. So that's really how. But it was a client literally telling me that a size 10 was overweight and disgusting. And here I am, a size 12. And it was very humbling
Uh,
experience, but it brought in my mind to have these conversations.
yeah, I think that's so good about checking the science rather than the number. When you say
Absolutely.
when you say cholesterol, when you say go get your blood pressure checked, like
Yes.
get your blood work done and look at that rather than okay, this is the number that's on the scale and it's been like this. Because heart disease can take you out, before you
Abs-
think the biggest or whatever. So that is very good, and I feel like it might bring comfort to some people if they go
yes.
out that every because every 3 months I get my blood work checked every single time.
No.
So just to get it checked, just to make sure like you're still like on the right, path. So that is good.
No, that's what, yeah. So that's one way I started, just because, like you're saying, I think we can hear it a little bit easier. As you probably know or have seen, people do better with medical diagnoses than they do with mental health diagnoses. So I'll have the client who's in their 60 and they'll deny anxiety, deny depression, but they won't deny I'm having IBS. Are they irritable bowel syndrome? Or they
Hmm.
won't deny I'm having heart palpitation. I'm
Hmm.
having high blood pressure. So
Hmm.
I've learned to integrate the two, and it just brings a little bit more comfort and ease. And then, of course, once we build that rapport, then I can get to the harder stuff. Is, girl, you shouldn't be eating fried chicken at 12 o'clock at night, and we'll laugh together and we'll, play with it. But no, that was my encounter of like, okay, we need to talk about health. I need to have this conversation. Just like I'm going to ask them about other things, menses or men, sexual function. They're not topics that, you want to address with a person. They can seem like you're prying, but they are very necessary to have.
Yeah, and once that door is open, I feel like the a client feels more inclined to like talk about it. Nobody wants to bring it up, but if you're there,
Absolutely.
like, okay, this is a safe space. Hip is still intact. All right, here's my business. So
Yeah,
yeah. So,
absolutely.
so with working with your clients at the foundation, what do you always want them to leave with?
Oh, that's a good one. So I used to say I want them to leave feeling better than they came in, but that's not always a reality. When you're addressing childhood trauma, sexual assault, sexual abuse, incest, those aren't things that we're always going to leave, and you're going to feel better. So what I've adjusted that to is I want them to leave knowing they've been seen and heard and supported. So if
Yeah.
my client knows that, hey, she saw me, she recognized me, this wasn't that bad, I felt comfortable, that's the biggest thing that I can hope for. So I want them to be seen, heard, and felt like they're supported.
Okay. Yes, because that's what I want every time I go to therapy. Validate.
Yes.
see me validate this. Well, yeah, that's perfect. So, what's one common misconception about therapy? We're trying to get people to come on in. What's one common misconception about therapy that you wish people would understand?
Oh, there's so many. But if I had to pick one, I hear all the time that it's not for me. And I use that one because it's so broad. So often at times people say it's not for me, it's not for me. And I have to break down, well, what is for you? Right? Because therapy in the traditional sense may not be for everyone, but we don't always have to be traditional. There are times where we can do things that, okay, thank you. We can always do, sometimes we can do things that are, non-traditional. So I have some therapists that they may take walks with their clients, right? And they're perimeters. This isn't what everyone's doing, but there are perimeters. Some people incorporate alternative practices. So whether that be yoga, whether that be meditation, whether that be deep breathing. So I like to ask a person, what is for you then, and how can we have therapy catered to that, opposed to therapy's not for me. And I always tell my men, because typically I get the partner and they say, hey, I want my guy to come in. They're a little nervous. They've never seen anyone. I always say, just give me 5 minutes. Give me 5 minutes to reel you in, make you feel comfortable. If you don't like it, you can totally leave. And guys, their partners come in. They're like, oh, she's not that bad. She's okay. She's kind of cool. And then I feel like they have a good experience.
Okay, good, good, good. Oof, okay, good. So, what's a common fear? I got this one written down, or concern clients have when they first come in, and how do you help them overcome that?
Ooh, I would say the nerves of having to open up and spill their darkest and deepest secrets to someone they don't know. I think that that's a big fear. What if I don't feel comfortable? What if I don't speak? What if I don't say? I think that that fear of opening up is can be very you know evoke a lot of anxiety for them.
Yeah. So, how do you help clients feel safe and supported?
Absolutely. By just telling them, one, I like to do my treatment plan with them. So when they first come in, of course, we're doing an intake session where it really is a lot of clinical information. So I usually say to them, this is probably the only session where I'll be doing most of the talking. I'm just collecting some clinical data, some history, things like that. And then from there, prompting them to what initially brought you into therapy. So really making it about them so that it's not me, this professional, this educator, this scholar who's going to come in and tell you about them, but I empower them to take control of their therapy. What do you need? What did you want? What brought you here? Really fostering and building upon that.
Okay, and when someone's trying to come in with a goal, what's a comfortable set of time that you're saying, okay, we can actually reach this goal in this amount of time? Because some people think therapy, I don't want to start because it's going to take forever. I'm
Yep.
going to be here for years, and it's never gonna, you just want me to keep coming so you can get paid. Those are things that I hear.
Yes, yes.
What's the common timeline of something that's, we'll say lower acuity of figuring out and problem solving where you feel like you've actually got somewhere?
I would say about 2 months, maybe 8 to 10 sessions. So I say that because the first 4 weeks is really getting to know you, right? I'm going to do that intake in 1 or 2 sessions. Then I rely on some of my tools, one in which I said to you, a geneogram, and then another, I do a little bit of, romantic history, platonic friendship, so I know how you relate to people. And so after that, that's probably 3 or 4 sessions in, then we can start talking about what really brought you in. I like to look at some of your self-talk, your coping skills, your support. So I say anywhere between 2 months, 8 to 10 sessions. 10 we can do some good work in that time.
Did y'all hear that? 2 months, your life can change. In 2 months, your whole life can change. Okay, what's one piece of advice you want to leave with the viewers watching this today?
I want to say that specifically for our culture, we need to destigmatize the stigma that comes with therapy. So I would say to be open, have conversations, changing the language from you're crazy, that person's bipolar, really not kind of using these pseudo terms, but actually asking someone, checking in, empowering people to check in on their mental health, and not in the negative way of you need to check your mind because you acting crazy, but in a
Mhm.
more fostering and nurturing way. I think that would be the first step, whether it's for yourself or if it's for others, just making mental health a topic that feels comfortable and supported.
Perfect. All right, y'all. Well, that's all the time we have today because the library is closing. I'm Brian Stokes, and thank you, Tamera Crenshaw, LMHC,
Hey,
owner of Tools for Success Counseling. I appreciate you coming today. And
thank you,
anybody,
thank
you need
you.
services in Connecticut or Massachusetts, you can visit toolsforsuccesscounseling.com, right? That is
Yes,
the whole thing,
you got it
right?
right.